The rain had a way of swallowing sound in Ethan Hale's world, not muting it, absorbing it. Every raindrop tapping the limousine window felt like a reminder he had avoided for 6 years. New York's skyline stretched behind him, a glittering monument to everything he had built and everything he had sacrificed. Yet tonight, none of it felt heavy enough to hold him in place. The jet waited at the private airstrip. His driver watched him from the rearview mirror, unsure why his boss, the famously stone-faced billionaire, looked like he was drowning without water. Ethan's phone vibrated. Claire, his assistant. Her voice came through the speaker, crisp and organized as always. "Your property meeting is confirmed at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Should I arrange security for your arrival, sir?" "No," Ethan said quietly. "It's a small town. I'll walk." Claire hesitated, an unusual crack in her efficiency. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Ethan closed his eyes. He could see her face even after all these years. Maya, the woman he loved, the woman he destroyed without meaning to. "I'm already doing it," he murmured. The call ended. The car rolled into the rain-soaked tarmac, tires slicing through shallow pools. The jet's lights glowed like two pale eyes in the fog. Ethan stepped out, coat pulled tight, breath forming small white clouds. The pilot greeted him. "Cold night, Mr. Hale." "Not colder than the one I'm heading into," Ethan said. The pilot didn't understand, but nodded anyway. Inside the jet, luxury wrapped itself around him. Leather seats, dim gold lighting, glasses waiting in the holders. Ethan ignored all of it. He sat in silence as the jet lifted, slicing through dark clouds like a blade, a hometown that never forgot. 3 hours later, the wheels kissed the runway of Hickory Ridge, a small rural town that looked frozen in time. Ethan had grown up here, dreaming of skyscrapers, wealth, power, anything big enough to escape the suffocating sins of small-town life. He succeeded, but the price was high, too high. The rental car he ordered waited outside the tiny terminal. No paparazzi, no reporters, no business partners, just the low hum of insects and a sleepy wind blowing across the flat highway. He drove past quiet fields, broken fences, a closed-down hardware store, landmarks of a life he had abandoned without looking back. The night pressed against his window, heavy and intimate. Rain began again. Not a storm, more like the sky whispering against the earth. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "What am I doing here?" "It's just business, just property, just a meeting." But his heart didn't buy the lie. Not tonight, not when the past was crawling through the rain. Catching up to him, memories are louder in silence. At a stop sign near the church, he caught a glimpse of the old brick building where he married Maya. Soft lights glowed behind the stained-glass windows. He remembered her hand in his, the way she whispered forever without shaking, the way her eyes sparkled with so much faith in him, a faith he broke. He looked away quickly, forcing the memory into the shadows where the rest of them lived. The rain thickened, a hunger he couldn't ignore. By the time he reached the motel, his stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since morning. Sleep refused to come. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, as if mocking him. 27 p.m., a flashing neon sign across the road caught his eye. Mel's Diner, open 24 hours. He almost laughed. Of course the universe would drag him to a diner at midnight in the middle of nowhere. He grabbed his coat, stepped into the rain, and crossed the road. Every step felt heavier than the last. The diner door chimed when he pushed it open. Warmth hit him first. Then the smell, coffee, grilled onions, old wood polish. And then a voice, soft, familiar, "Table for one." He froze. Time cracked around him. The voice wasn't supposed to exist here. Not tonight. Not ever again. The woman he destroyed behind the counter stood. Maya Hale, his ex-wife, her hair tied in a loose bun, a few strands falling around her tired but still beautiful face. The apron around her waist had a smear of flour. Her eyes, deep, dark, unbelievable, lifted toward him. They widened. The coffee pot in her hand slipped for half a second. Her breath hitched. "Ethan?" He couldn't breathe. 6 years of silence. 6 years of believing she had moved far away. 6 years of guilt gnawing at him like a slow-burning fire, and she was here, in a small-town diner, serving coffee, looking both exactly the same and entirely different. Maya, he whispered. The word tasted like a wound, but the night was not done with him before either of them could speak again. Loud giggles erupted from a booth behind him. 3 small heads popped up, 3 identical faces, 3 sets of bright, curious eyes. Triplets, 6 years old. Brown hair, same chin, same smile, his smile. His heart slammed against his ribs. The world tilted. Maya stepped forward slightly, panic shooting across her face. Ethan, he wasn't listening anymore. He couldn't. The triplets stared at him with the innocent fascination only children possess, like they were looking at a stranger, who somehow looked familiar. One of the boys whispered loudly to his brother, "Why does he have our face?" Ethan felt the floor drop under him. His pulse roared. The diner seemed to shrink. The rain outside grew louder, pounding the windows like a warning. "Maya," he said again, voice cracking as reality tore through him. What is this?" Her eyes filled with a storm she had clearly held back for years. "Not here," she whispered sharply. "Please, not in front of them." But Ethan couldn't tear his gaze from the boys, triplets his age. His face, his son's, his knees weakened, his breath stuttered, the room spun. Maya rushed to the boys, whispered something to them, guiding them back down into the booth. The boys obeyed, reluctantly, still staring at Ethan like he was a puzzle piece they couldn't place. She walked toward him slowly, every step heavy with fear, anger, heartbreak, and something deeper, something unfinished. "Ethan, we need to talk." "But not here." "Not now," he swallowed. Maya, are they—" She looked away. Her silence answered everything. The universe didn't whisper tonight, it screamed. The chapter ends with Ethan standing motionless in the warm, bright diner, while the rain outside batters the world he once controlled, and the 3 boys, who look exactly like him, stare at him with a truth he never knew existed, a truth that will unravel everything. Rain drummed against the glass windows of Mel's diner, as if nature itself wanted to drown out the chaos erupting inside Ethan Hale's chest. The warm glow of the neon signs, the clattering of cutlery, the soft hum of the old jukebox, everything felt like a memory he wasn't supposed to revisit. But nothing could prepare him for the scene in front of him. Triplets, 3 boys, 6-year-old mirror images of him. His heartbeat thrashed against his ribs, knocking the breath out of him again and again. He tried to step forward, but his legs felt strangely disconnected from his body. Maya placed the coffee pot down with trembling fingers and moved toward the booth where the boys now sat, their small faces peeking over the table, each one holding a different milkshake, strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, but all 3 staring directly at Ethan like they were witnessing something impossible. The oldest-looking one, with a quirk in his brow, whispered, "Mom, who is that man?" Maya froze, her jaw tightened, her eyes flicked to Ethan like a warning shot. "Someone Mommy used to know," she said softly. "Used to know." The phrase sliced through him. He swallowed hard. "Maya, not here," she hissed quietly, her voice cracking under the weight of 100 unsaid things. "Please, let them finish eating." The middle child, slightly shorter, swung his legs and leaned forward with a grin that felt painfully familiar. "Mom, he looks like us." Ethan's breath faltered again. Maya knelt, brushing a hand through the boy's hair. "Sweetheart." "Please finish your milkshake." The smallest of the 3 boys tugged her sleeve. "Are we in trouble?" Maya's face softened instantly. No, baby, you're not in trouble." She looked at Ethan, her eyes begging him to understand. "I just need a minute." He nodded mechanically, words trapped, thoughts spiraling. The diner buzzed around him, forks scraping plates, a waitress yelling orders, an old man slurping soup. But it all faded into a dull haze. His gaze remained locked on the boys. Same hazel eyes, same cheekbones, same faint swirl in the hairline, the same mish the same spark he'd seen in himself as a child, except these weren't mischievous. They were innocent, pure, unscarred by the world Ethan lived in. His hands shook. He grabbed the edge of a bar stool to steady himself. Maya approached him finally, wiping her hands on her apron, her voice low and trembling. "We need to step outside," she said. "Now!" He followed her like a ghost, his mind still catching up to the reality unfolding in front of him. The moment the diner door closed behind them, the rain swallowed their voices. A cold gust hit their faces, the night thick with tension and the smell of wet asphalt. Maya stood under the flickering awning light, arms folded, trying to appear composed, but her eyes were glassy, wounded, and furious all at once. Ethan struggled for breath. "Triplets!" "Maya, there, don't say it," she snapped, her voice breaking. He stepped closer. "I need to know the truth." Her eyes darted away, searching the dark parking lot as if escape could be found between the shadows. "You left," she whispered. "You left and never came back. You disappeared." Ethan fired back. "One day you were just gone, no call, no message." Maya snapped her gaze to him, hurt flashing across her face. "I did call, Ethan. I sent messages. I begged you to listen. But your world, your empire, mattered more than I did." His mouth opened, then closed. He remembered the long days, the merger war he was caught in, the brutal rise to becoming one of the youngest billionaires in New York. He remembered letting Claire handle most personal communications. He remembered ignoring anything that didn't feel urgent. But Maya, pregnant, reaching out, "I never got anything," he whispered hoarsely. "Because you never looked," she shot back. The rain thickened, drumming like 1,000 tiny hammers around them. "So that's why you left," he said quietly. "That's why I had to," she corrected. "I wasn't going to raise children in a world where their father didn't have 5 minutes to pick up a phone. Children, plural." The word detonated inside him. He leaned against the wall, wiping a trembling hand over his face. "Maya, why didn't you tell me they were mine?" Her voice cracked. "Because you didn't want a family. You wanted a legacy," he flinched. The truth stung because it wasn't a lie, at least. "Not then, I didn't know," he whispered. "If I had—" "You would have done what?" she interrupted bitterly. "Sent money? Ordered a nanny? Visited once every month between board meetings?" Her voice trembled violently. "No, I needed a partner, not a paycheck." He looked away, ashamed. She stepped back, hugging her arms against the cold. "I built a life for them, alone. I kept them safe. I kept them happy. And I am not letting you walk in here and destroy that." "I don't want to destroy anything," Ethan said desperately. "I just saw them. Maya, I saw their faces. You can't expect me to walk away now." "That's exactly what I expect," she replied, fire in her eyes. "Because walking away is what you do." The accusation pierced deeper than any blade. He stepped closer. His voice dropped to a raw whisper. "I didn't walk away from them. I didn't know they existed." For the first time, Maya's expression softened, just a flicker, a fracture in her armor. "I didn't know how to tell you," she admitted. "And by the time I found the courage, they were already born. And I was already alone." A lump formed in his throat, heavy and relentless. "Maya," he whispered. She looked up, eyes glistening. "What are you doing here, Ethan?" "Why now?" He inhaled shakily. "I don't know, I just needed to breathe. And somehow I ended up back here." She closed her eyes. "Life has a cruel sense of humor." He let out a hollow laugh. "Cruel is an understatement." Silence fell between them, thick and electric, shaped by 6 years of pain and lost chances. Finally she spoke, voice soft but firm. "You cannot tell them." "Not yet," he blinked. "What?" "They don't know," she said. "They've never met their father. They never even heard your name until tonight." His heart shattered a little. "They deserve to know. They deserve stability," she corrected. "And right now that's me. Just me." He looked toward the diner window. The triplets sat together, sharing fries and whispering about him. A storm raged inside Ethan. Guilt, shock, wonder, devastation, mixing into something new and terrifying. "I'm not leaving," he said finally. "Not this time." Maya stiffened. "You don't get to decide that." "I do," he whispered. Because those boys, my boys, they deserve the truth. They deserve a father. You lost that right when you vanished, and you took that right when you hid them. Their voices hit like colliding thunder. Maya's eyes filled, fury mixed with heartbreak. "Don't you dare blame me!" Ethan stepped back, choking on his own breath. "I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming the man I was," she swallowed hard. "That man hurt me, Ethan. He broke me." "I know," he whispered. Rain trickled down his face. He didn't know if it was water or something else. Finally, Maya looked away, shaking. "We'll talk tomorrow, not now. Not like this." He nodded slowly. She turned, hand on the diner door. Before she stepped inside, she said quietly, "Please, don't confuse a moment with a miracle. Just because you're here tonight doesn't mean you get to be in their life tomorrow." The door closed gently behind her. Ethan stood alone in the rain, breath trembling, staring through the foggy glass as his three sons laughed together, unaware of the storm that had just begun. The rain eased into a mist by the time Ethan forced himself back into the diner. The warmth inside felt strange now, almost hostile, like the room itself knew he didn't belong here anymore. Customers chatted, forks scraped plates, a fan hummed lazily overhead. Yet everything felt distant, muffled, unreal. He sat at the far end of the counter, deliberately keeping his distance from the triplets. Maya returned to her shift, not out of ease, but out of necessity. Bills didn't pause for heartbreak. Every so often, she glanced his way, not with affection, not with hatred, but with a painful mix of both. Or inside her, she was barely holding. Together, the boys finished their shakes and started arguing about who would carry the leftover fries box. Their voices, high and bright, pierced Ethan's chest like tiny needles. He tried not to stare, but he couldn't help it. Every laugh, every expression, every tilt of their head felt like watching his own childhood through a cracked mirror. Eventually, Maya approached him with a towel thrown over her shoulder. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured under her breath. "I didn't know where else to go," he replied quietly. She sighed, exhaustion dripping through the lines around her eyes. "We talk tomorrow, noon, behind the diner. I don't want the kids overhearing." He nodded. She walked away. For the triplets, the night was simple: milkshakes, fries, rain, and curiosity. For Ethan, it was the night his entire world collapsed and rebuilt itself in the same breath. The next day, the meeting. The morning carried a strange weight. Ethan barely slept. The motel room felt suffocating. Walls too close, sheets too thin, clock too loud. For a man used to penthouses, private chefs, and silence that cost thousands, this place felt like a punishment crafted by fate itself. At 11:58 a.m., Ethan arrived behind the diner. A narrow alley, dumpsters on one side, a rusted fire escape on the other. The smell of grease and coffee drifted faintly through the back door. Maya stood there already, arms folded, face tense. "You came," she said. "You asked." She exhaled. "All right. Say what you want to say." Ethan stepped closer, unsure where to begin. "Why didn't you tell me?" She gave a sad, almost mocking laugh. "That's your first question? After 6 years? What else am I supposed to ask?" He replied angrily. "I walked into that diner and found out I have 3 sons. Maya, you should have told me." "I did!" she snapped. He froze. "A bit when?" Her throat tightened. "I sent you messages. I tried calling, even mailed a letter, but everything bounced off your assistant, off your company gates, off your walls." His face paled. Claire, her efficiency, her filtering, her need to protect Ethan from distractions. His stomach twisted. "Maya, I never saw anything, and what difference would it have made?" She shot back. "You barely came home. You were married to your company. You missed birthdays. You missed dinners. I was building a future for us," he whispered. "You were building a future for yourself," she corrected sharply. "And every time I begged you to slow down, you accused me of not understanding your ambition." The memory hit him like a punch. He remembered their last fight. Maya standing in the doorway, pregnant, but he didn't know. Tears running down her cheeks. "Ethan, we're losing each other." And Ethan, Cold, distant, too consumed by upcoming negotiations. "We'll talk later," he had said. Later never came. "Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" he whispered, voice cracking. Maya's entire body stiffened. "Because I didn't want to raise children with a man who couldn't even look me in the eye anymore." Silence. Heavy, crushing. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering slightly. "When I found out, I panicked," she admitted. "I didn't know what to do. I hoped you'd notice I was gone. I hoped you'd come after me." He swallowed hard. "I did, after 4 months," she said coldly. He winced. The truth was a harsh mirror. He remembered Claire convincing him that Maya left because she didn't want the pressure. He remembered throwing himself into work, burying the pain, convincing himself that life moves forward no matter the losses. He was wrong. Tragically wrong. Maya looked down. "By the time you showed up, I was already in another town. Already showing. Already alone." Ethan's breath trembled. "And you raised them by yourself," she nodded. "I had no other choice." He paced in frustration, hands buried in his hair. "I would have helped." "No," she cut in. "Not helped. They needed a father, not a donor, not a visitor. A father." Her words echoed between them. Maya continued softly, "I wasn't going to drag them into a world where you were never home, never available, never present." Ethan stepped closer. "I'm here now." She shook her head. "You don't get to appear one night and rewrite their entire world." He took a long breath. "I don't want to take anything away. I just want to know them." Maya looked away, blinking fast. "I don't know if I can let you." "You don't trust me." "Of course I don't trust you," she whispered, voice trembling. "You broke me, Ethan." His chest clenched. He whispered, "I never meant to." "Intent doesn't change impact," she said softly. The truth she never wanted to say, Ethan, leaned against the wall, rain still dripping from the metal gutter above. "Maya, I need to ask something." She stiffened. "What? Why didn't you tell them about me?" Her expression softened in a painful way. "I didn't want them to wait for someone who wasn't coming." He felt his lungs tighten. "And I didn't want them to think they weren't enough if you didn't show up." A tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it quickly, frustrated with herself. "They're good boys. They're happy. They're safe. I built a life for them with nothing." She laughed bitterly. "I worked double shifts. I sold my car. I lived in a tiny apartment with 3 cribs lined against one wall." Ethan felt sick. "You should have told me," he said again, but this time it sounded more like a plea. "I know," she whispered, "but every time I imagined calling you, I pictured you telling me you didn't have time." He closed his eyes. "I would have made time. You didn't make time for me," she replied quietly. Another wound. Another truth. The boys arrive. Suddenly the back door opened and the triplets spilled out laughing, holding a broken toy truck. "Mom! Mom!" one yelled. Liam broke it. "No, I didn't," the other yelled. It was already broken. The smallest tripped over his own shoelaces and bumped into Ethan's leg. He looked up, wide-eyed, then blinked. "Hi again," he said innocently. Ethan's voice nearly failed him. "Aye." The boy tilted his head. "You look sad." Maya rushed toward them, panicked. "Boys, what did I say about staying inside?" Ethan crouched down. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated, then looked at Maya for permission. She swallowed, then nodded. "I'm Caleb," the boy said proudly. "Caleb." The name hit Ethan like a heartbeat. "And those two?" Ethan asked gently. "I'm Noah," one shouted, already climbing the dumpster railing like a jungle gym. "And I'm Liam," the last one said, flexing tiny arms like a superhero. Ethan laughed, a soft, broken sound. Noah. Liam, Caleb, his sons. Maya pulled them close. "Time to go home." They groaned, but obeyed. Before leaving, Caleb looked back at Ethan. "Will we see you again?" Maya froze. Ethan's heart shattered. He forced a soft smile. "I hope so." Caleb grinned and ran after his brothers. Maya lingered only a moment. "Ethan, don't make promises you can't." "Keep," she turned. The boys grabbed her hands, and they disappeared. Around the corner, 3 small silhouettes pulling their mother into the sunlight. Ethan remained alone in the alley, heart bleeding into the gravel, understanding something he had never understood before. His past wasn't finished with him. His future lived in 3 small bodies who carried his face, and this time he wasn't walking away. The next morning arrived with a quiet golden softness that didn't match the storm inside Ethan Hale's chest. He hadn't slept more than an hour. The motel room felt colder than usual, the thin curtains unable to keep out the rising sun. His mind replayed a single moment again and again, Caleb bumping into his leg, looking up, and saying, "You look sad." 6 years of emptiness condensed into one small voice. By 9 a.m., Ethan was parked near the diner again. He didn't intend to be. He told himself he was going for coffee, maybe breakfast, but his hands steered the wheel there on their own. He sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel like it might anchor him. What was he supposed to do? Walk in and say good morning? Pretend everything was normal? Pretend he wasn't standing outside a life he never knew existed? Before he could decide, the diner door swung open and the triplets came tumbling out like a burst of chaotic joy. Noah was racing after Liam. Caleb was dragging a backpack half his size. All 3 were laughing, wild, loud, completely unfiltered. For a moment, Ethan just watched. 3 pieces of his soul, alive, breathing, real, living a childhood he was never part of. He stepped out of the car slowly, as if approaching a dream that might dissolve with any sudden motion. Caleb noticed him first. "Hey, it's Sad Guy," he shouted cheerfully. Ethan froze. Maya, stepping out behind them, almost choked. "Caleb, you cannot call people that." "But he is sad," Caleb insisted. Ethan couldn't help it. He laughed. For the first time in years, the sound didn't feel forced. Maya sent him an embarrassed glance, cheeks warm. They're very observant." Ethan crouched down, meeting the boys at eye level. "Good morning," he said softly. Liam studied him with squinted eyes, like a detective. "Why are you here?" Maya stiffened. "Liam, it's okay," Ethan murmured, holding the boy's curious gaze. "I wanted breakfast." Noah pointed at him dramatically. "Grown-ups don't eat breakfast alone unless they're sad or spies." Caleb gasped. "Are you a spy?" Ethan smiled. "No, not a spy." Liam folded his arms. "Then definitely sad." Maya face-palmed, but inside Ethan, something quietly broke open. This warmth, this chaos, this tiny storm of jokes and honesty and innocence, he'd missed all of it. "Can he sit with us?" Caleb asked. Maya stiffened so sharply it was visible. "No, sweetheart," she said. "We don't know him well." The rejection hit Ethan harder than he expected. Not because Maya was wrong, she wasn't, but because he realized how desperately he wanted to be part of their tiny circle. He stood slowly. "I don't want to intrude," but Liam tugged on his coat sleeve. "You can sit near us, like, not with us, but not with us." "An adjacent sitter," Noah declared proudly. Ethan blinked. "That sounds fair." Maya closed her eyes like she was negotiating with fate itself. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, but just breakfast. And no questions," he nodded. "Understood." Inside the diner, a new world. They took a booth. The boys on one side, Ethan on the other. A respectful distance that somehow felt like a chasm and a bridge at the same time. Maya served them. Pancakes, eggs, syrup, small milk cartons, while Ethan ordered the simplest thing he could think of, black coffee and toast. Anything more felt too personal. The boys immediately started interrogating him. "Do you have kids?" Caleb asked. Maya froze mid-step. Ethan's lips parted. For a second he couldn't breathe. "No," he said softly. Liam frowned. "Why not?" "Because life didn't go the way I thought it would." Caleb nodded with exaggerated wisdom. "That happens when you don't plan properly." Maya nearly dropped the syrup bottle. Noah leaned forward. "Do you have a dog?" "No." "Cat?" "No." "A turtle?" "No." "A goldfish?" "No," the boys gasped. "You don't have anything?" Noah asked dramatically. Ethan smiled faintly. "I have work." The boys groaned like he'd said a dirty word. "Work is boring," Caleb announced. "Super boring," Noah added. "Unless you're a firefighter," Liam clarified. "What do you do?" Caleb asked. "I run a company." "That's the boring option," Noah yelled. Liam nodded in agreement. So boring, Maya gently scolded. Boys! But Ethan raised a hand. No, no, they're not wrong. The triplets burst out laughing, and just like that, the walls softened. The first connection, at some point Noah spilled his milk. Caleb tried wiping it with a napkin, but only made it worse. Liam drew a smiley face in the spill. Ethan couldn't stop smiling. They were chaos, but the kind of chaos that felt alive. Maya returned with a rag, exasperated. Can you all please? Then she paused. Ethan was already cleaning it. He didn't even realize he'd moved until he heard her breath hitch. He wiped the table gently, careful not to startle the boys. He moved like a father who had done this 100 times, but never once in real life. When he looked up, Maya was staring at him, not angrily, not with resentment, just stunned. Something flickered in her eyes, recognition maybe, of the man she once believed he could be. Ethan cleared his throat and slid back into his seat. Sorry, habit. Of what? Maya asked softly. He hesitated. Of longing, of wanting this life, of wanting them. He didn't answer. A small crack in the wall. After breakfast, the boys grabbed their backpacks ready for school. Caleb tugged Ethan's sleeve again. Will you be here tomorrow? Ethan's heart thumped painfully. That depends, he said quietly. Looking at Maya, she hesitated. Really hesitated. It wasn't a no, it wasn't a yes. It was a silent question. Can I trust you not to break them? Finally, she spoke. You can stop by again for a few minutes, if you want. Ethan inhaled sharply. I want, she nodded. The boys cheered, then ran off to the bus stop just beyond the diner windows. Waving wildly, Ethan watched them go, every step carrying a piece of his soul with them. When the bus pulled away, Maya finally turned to him. You were good with them. Today, thank you, but don't mistake this for forgiveness. I won't. And don't think this is easy for me. I don't. She looked away, gripping her apron tightly. They're my whole world, he nodded. They're becoming mine. Maya's breath caught, just for a second. Then she whispered something he didn't expect. Come back tomorrow. Same time. Ethan's chest tightened. I will. She walked inside without another word. Ethan stood alone on the sidewalk, heart pounding, rain drying on the pavement, understanding something he had never understood before. He didn't just want to meet them, he wanted to earn them. Ethan returned to the diner the next morning, before the sun had fully risen. The air was crisp, the sky streaked with faint lavender and gold, and Hickory Ridge still carried that quiet, small-town stillness that made every footstep sound louder than it should. He sat in his car for 15 minutes before going inside. He wasn't afraid of Maya's anger. He wasn't afraid of judgment. He wasn't even afraid of the awkwardness. He was afraid of failing again, afraid of not being enough, afraid that the moment the boys learned who he was, they would look at him with disappointment, the same disappointment he saw in his own reflection when he thought of his past. But when he stepped inside, everything stilled, because 3 small faces lit up like fireworks. He's back! Noah shouted across the diner. Caleb slid off the booth seat, nearly tumbling onto the floor in excitement. Maya, Mom, he came again! Liam peeked up from his coloring book. Told you he wasn't a spy. Customers turned to stare, amusement lighting their expressions. The boys didn't care. They swarmed Ethan like he was the most interesting thing that had happened all morning. Maya appeared from behind the counter, her hair tied in a loose ponytail, eyes tired but surprisingly soft. You're early, she said. I was up, Ethan replied. You slept here. Noah gasped dramatically. Ethan laughed. Not exactly. You should, Caleb insisted, pulling his sleeve. Then you could play with us in the morning. Maya gently detached Caleb's hand. Boys, let him breathe, and Ethan, unbelievably, felt his chest warm with something he hadn't felt in years. Family, a new routine over the next week. Ethan stayed in town, claiming a business extension to Claire whenever she called, though even she began sensing something was off. His mornings were spent in the diner, not at the corner table, but gradually merging into the chaotic orbit of the triplets. And whether Maya liked it or not, she slowly allowed more space between them. Some days he helped them with coloring books. Other days he listened as they rambled about school, superheroes, dinosaurs, and a boy named Carter who apparently smelled weird but was cool. But on Wednesday, something shifted. Caleb was struggling with his shoelaces, frustrated tears building in his eyes. "Stupid shoes," he snapped. Ethan knelt beside him. "Here, let me show you a secret." He tied one lace, then another, demonstrating the bunny ear trick Maya used to teach him when he was a kid. Caleb stared in awe. "You're really good at that." "I've had a lot of practice." The boy blinked slowly, his voice small. "Did your dad teach you?" Ethan froze. For a moment he couldn't breathe. "No," Ethan whispered. "I learned alone." Caleb studied his face, then leaned forward and hugged him tightly. Ethan's throat closed. Maya stood near the counter watching, her expression unreadable, but her eyes unmistakably shimmering. The moment Maya didn't expect later that afternoon, the diner hit a rush. The grill sizzled with orders, customers filled every booth. Waitresses ran back and forth, and still, people kept coming. Maya looked overwhelmed. She hated asking for help. But she didn't need to ask, because Ethan just moved. He stepped behind the counter quietly. "You can't be back here," she whispered. "Let me help." "Just take orders, I'll plate." "You've never worked in a diner." "I've run companies worth billions," Ethan replied calmly. "I can stack pancakes." Despite herself, she let out a tiny laugh, the first genuine one he'd heard from her since he returned. He slipped into the role surprisingly fast. He cut pies. He prepared sandwiches. He handed plates to servers. At one point, he even flipped a burger without burning himself, earning an impressed whistle from one of the cooks. Not bad, city boy. By the time the rush ended, Ethan was sweating, flour on his sleeve, syrup on his wrist, and more fulfilled than he'd felt in years. Maya wiped down a table, glancing at him from the corner of her eye. "You handled that well." "Thank you," Ethan replied. His voice was soft, earnest, not the polished, hardened tone she remembered. "You didn't have to," she added quietly. "I wanted to." Maya swallowed. "That's what scares me." He looked at her carefully. "Why?" "Because you're acting like the man I used to wish you were." The sentence hit him like a punch. "I'm trying," he said softly. "I know," Maya whispered back. "But I don't know if it's real." "It is," Ethan said. "I'm not the same man who left." "I know," she repeated. "But that doesn't erase the man you were." Silence, painful, honest silence, a glimpse into Maya's struggle. When the diner emptied, Maya poured herself coffee and sat at the edge of the counter. Exhaustion etched into her posture. Ethan approached carefully. "Are you okay?" She huffed a tired laugh. "I work double shifts at a place that smells like onions and grease. I raise 3 boys. I live in a small apartment with a heater that only works when the moon is aligned correctly." She sighed. "So no, I'm not okay. But I manage. Let me help," Ethan said instinctively. Her head snapped toward him. With sharpness, with fear. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't offer something you can't commit to." "I can commit. You say that now." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Maya, I'm not leaving." She let out a shaky breath, not relieved, not convinced. "Something in between." "You said that once before," she murmured. "And then you disappeared into your world of mergers and suits and corporate nightmares." "I was a different man, and I was a different woman," she replied. "The difference is, I didn't have the luxury to stay that way." Her words sliced with brutal honesty. Ethan nodded slowly. "I understand. I don't think you do." She stood abruptly, started wiping an already clean counter. "Look, Ethan, the boys are happy. They're stable. I worked hard for that. I can't let anything jeopardize it." He held her gaze. "And what if I can add to that happiness?" Her eyes softened, then hardened again. "You want a second chance." "That's fine. But you need to earn it." Ethan nodded. "I will." Maya stepped past him, stopping at the doorway that led to the kitchen. "Then start by showing up. Not talking, not promising, showing." The door swung shut behind her. Ethan stood alone again, but this time he knew exactly what he needed to do. A decision, a new beginning. That night, Ethan didn't take calls. He didn't check emails. He didn't respond to messages. He walked through Hickory Ridge's small streets, breathing in the crisp wind, the scent of pine, the distant sound of a train. He felt human. For the first time in years, he passed the elementary school where the boys attended. He paused at the park where families gathered on weekends. He stood near the quiet river where he and Maya once kissed under the stars. He whispered to the darkness, "I'm not losing them." Not again, his voice broke. But he didn't care. The next morning he texted Claire, "Extend my leave indefinitely. I won't be back for a while." Her response came immediately, "Is everything okay?" "No," he replied, "but it will be." He turned his phone off. For the first time since becoming a billionaire, Ethan let the world run without him. The boys see the change. The next day, Ethan returned to the diner, not dressed in a tailored suit, not polished or perfect, but in jeans, rolled sleeves and a modest shirt. He looked like he belonged. Noah gasped, "You look normal." "Do you like it?" Ethan asked. Liam nodded enthusiastically. "You look less like a boss and more like a person." Caleb tugged his hand. "Did you come early so we can draw together?" "Yes," Ethan said. "I came for you." Maya overheard, her breath catching for just a heartbeat. She didn't smile, but she didn't frown either. And in silence, Ethan realized he had just won the first battle, not for forgiveness, not for redemption, but for a place, even a small one, in the world he never knew he needed, his children's world. For days, Ethan built a rhythm around the diner, slow, soft, careful steps into a world he never knew he wanted. And the boys welcomed him with a natural ease that felt like destiny. Every morning, they ran to him before he even stepped through the diner door. Every afternoon, they dragged him toward their latest drawing, their school adventures, their stories about dinosaurs, superheroes, and mysterious cafeteria food. Every evening, he walked back to his motel room with a warmth in his chest he didn't recognize, a warmth he feared, because it made him realize how cold his life had actually been. But good things don't stay quiet for long, not when the world knows your name. And Ethan Hale's name was too big, too loud, too exposed. The first spark started with a single photo. A local teenager had snapped a picture of Ethan sitting at the diner counter with the boys laughing beside him. The boy posted it online, captioned, "Billionaire Ethan Hale, hanging out with locals." 2 hours later, viral, national trending. Front-page blogs, within a day, reporters, paparazzi, gossip. Sites digging into Maya's life. The quiet safety of Hickory Ridge, shattered like thin glass. Maya got the first call. From a blocked number. "Is it true you have triplets with Ethan Hale? Did he abandon you? Are you after his money?" She hung up, heart-pounding. Another call, another message, another voice. By noon, she was shaking. When Ethan walked in, he knew something was wrong immediately. Her shoulders were tense, her eyes puffy, her jaw stiff. "Maya?" he asked. She didn't answer. She simply grabbed her phone and shoved it toward him. He froze as he read headlines splashed across the screen. "Ethan Hale spotted with mystery children. Secret family. Hale heirs? Triplets fuel company stock surge. Who is the woman behind the billionaire's hidden sons?" His stomach dropped. "Maya, I didn't—" "Stop," she snapped sharply. "Don't say it," he swallowed. "I had no idea anyone took a picture." "I don't care who took it," she hissed, her voice trembling. "I care that my boys' faces are on the internet. I care that reporters are calling my phone. I care that strangers are digging into our lives." The boys watched from the corner booth, confused by the tension in the air. "Mom?" Liam asked quietly. "Are we in trouble?" Maya forced a shaky smile toward them. "No, sweetheart. You're fine. Finish your breakfast." She turned back to Ethan, eyes blazing and wet. "You said you didn't want to ruin their life." "I don't." "Then why is there a news van outside the diner?" Ethan spun. And there it was, a white van with a satellite dish, a woman with a microphone stepping out, camera crew right behind her. His pulse throbbed hard. "No," he whispered. "No, this wasn't me." He stepped outside instantly. Before he could tell the reporters to back off, before he could say a single word, 2 SUVs rolled in. Stopping sharply, black dress shoes hit the pavement, and out stepped his legal team. 3 lawyers, 2 security officers, 1 public relations strategist, all sent by his company. Ethan felt his chest tighten. "Mr. Hale," the lead attorney said, striding toward him confidently. "We saw the photos online. The situation is escalating. We recommend immediate legal action to protect your reputation." "What legal action?" Ethan asked, dread crawling up his spine. The lawyer didn't hesitate. "Custody petition. Immediately, emergency filing. We secure the children before their mother can leverage the scandal." Ethan felt the world stop. "What did you just say?" "Your ex-wife has concealed your heirs. The triplets are your biological children. Your company board is concerned. If she goes public, this becomes a media circus. The cleanest option is stop." The lawyer blinked, startled. "I am not filing for custody," Ethan said through clenched teeth. The attorney exchanged glances with the others. "With respect, sir, this is not optional. A scandal like this impacts stock value. Investors need to know you're in control of the narrative." Ethan stepped closer, voice low and furious. "Did I ask you to come here?" "No, sir, but we assumed—" "Don't assume!" The PR strategist stepped forward nervously. "Mr. Hale, the global media is digging. Journalists are connecting timelines. They're tracking the children's ages. News outlets are already labeling them your heirs." Ethan felt his stomach drop. He looked toward the diner window. Maya was watching from inside, her face pale with fear. He felt a surge of panic, not for himself, but for her and the boys. "Maya didn't ask for any of this," he muttered. "That's irrelevant," the lawyer said coldly. "Once the public connects the dots, she becomes part of your public brand." Ethan stared at the man with pure disbelief. "My sons," he said slowly, "are not a brand." The lawyer hesitated. "Sir, respectfully, they are assets." Ethan punched him. The crack echoed across the parking lot. Reporters gasped. The camera flashes multiplied. Lawyers froze in horror. Ethan stood over the man, chest heaving, voice trembling with rage. "You ever call my children assets again? I will bury your entire career." The lawyer wiped blood from his lip, stunned, speechless. Security rushed forward. Reporters shouted questions. "Are they really your kids? Why did you abandon them? Is this a custody battle? Did you hide your family from the world?" And through the chaos, Ethan heard a soft gasp behind him. He turned. Maya stood at the diner door, her face drained of color. But worst of all, the boys stood next to her, wide-eyed, terrified, and looking at Ethan like he wasn't the man they thought he was. "Mom!" Caleb whispered, tugging her sleeve. "Why is he yelling?" Maya stepped protectively in front of them. Her voice was cold. "Ethan, leave." He shook his head. "Maya, leave!" She shouted louder than he'd ever heard her before. Customers watched from inside. Reporters leaned in closer. The boys huddled behind her, confused and frightened. Ethan felt something collapse inside his chest. He stepped forward anyway, desperate, heartbroken. "I didn't call them. I swear I didn't, but they came," she said bitterly. "They're here because of you. Maya, I'm trying to protect—" "No!" she screamed. "This is not protection. This is exactly what I feared. You walked into our life and now everything is falling apart." He flinched. "Maya, please don't shut me out." She pointed toward the parking lot. "I gave you a chance," she whispered, voice breaking. "And the first storm that hit, you brought a hurricane with you." He felt the sentence bury itself inside him. She clutched the boys close and pulled them inside. Slamming the door behind her, Ethan stood alone, reporters shouting, cameras flashing, lawyers arguing. But nothing pierced him as deeply as the sound of Caleb crying inside the diner. He made his choice. He walked away, not because he wanted to, but because staying would only hurt them more. The fall that night, Ethan sat alone in his motel room, hands shaking, mind spiraling. Everything he tried to protect, everything he tried to rebuild, everything he hoped for, had shattered in minutes. He stared at his reflection in the mirror. The cold, distant billionaire stared back. the ghost of the man who destroyed everything he loved. He asked himself a question he hadn't dared ask in years. Am I the problem? Silence answered, and for the first time, Ethan Hale felt something he'd never felt, not even when he lost his marriage, utter complete fear. Fear of losing the boys, fear of losing Maya, fear of becoming his father, fear of repeating the past, fear of being alone. But this time, alone for real, alone without the family he should have had, alone without the future he didn't know he wanted until it was almost gone. The next morning, the motel room felt colder than ever. Grey light filtered through the thin curtains, casting long shadows across the damp carpet. Ethan sat hunched over on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. Sleep hadn't come. Not for a second. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Caleb crying. Every time he inhaled, he heard Maya screaming. Every time his heart beat, he felt the sting of being shut out. Again, his phone buzzed relentlessly from the nightstand. He finally picked it up. Claire, crisis at headquarters. You need to return ASAP. Stock dropped 6%. Overnight. Board wants an emergency meeting. Media is asking if you're hiding heirs. He let the phone fall onto the bed. He didn't care about stock drops. He didn't care about the board. He didn't care about the headlines. He cared only about 3 boys and 1 woman who wanted nothing to do with him anymore. But he couldn't ignore his company. Not yet. Not when thousands of employees depended on him. He stood, breathing hard, and finally answered Claire, I'm coming back. The return to New York hours later. Ethan walked into the towering glass building of Hale Enterprises. The lobby buzzed with reporters and cameras. Security fought to keep them outside. Flashes exploded the moment they saw him. Mr. Hale, are the children yours? Why were you hiding a secret family? Is this a scandal or a paternity cover-up? Are you being blackmailed? He pushed through silently, jaw tight, rage simmering beneath the surface. The elevator doors slid shut, finally cutting off the chaos. For a moment he closed his eyes. He felt empty, like he had everything but nothing at the same time. The top-floor conference room was already full. Executives, lawyers, shareholders staring at him like he was a grenade with the pin pulled. The chairman stood. Ethan, the situation is unacceptable. Investors are panicked. The media storm is growing. We need a definitive answer. To what? Ethan asked coldly. Are they your children? The question hit like a slap. He didn't answer. The room buzzed with tension. That's a private matter, he said finally. No, the chairman snapped. It's a business matter now. Your reputation affects billions in assets. If those children truly are your heirs, we need to secure custody or... Ethan slammed his fist on the table. Everyone fell silent. I will not discuss my children like they're stocks. Children? Another executive echoed. So you admit... I admit nothing, Ethan growled. But if they are mine, then this company will not touch them. Not legally, not publicly, not financially. The executives looked at each other confused. But, sir, a lawyer said carefully, the cleanest option is to distance the company from the scandal. A public statement denying paternity. Ethan stood, and the room fell quiet. I'm done letting this company dictate my life. He walked to the window overlooking the city he once ruled. You want a statement? I'll give you one. He turned, voice steady as granite. I resign. Chaos exploded instantly. What do you think you're doing? You can't walk out. This company is your life. You're throwing everything away. You'll lose everything. Ethan finally let the truth spill from his chest. Everything I had was worthless, he said, voice trembling with emotion he no longer hid. And everything I want is in that diner, in that little town, with 3 boys who deserve better than the man I used to be. Silence, shock, fear, and then anger. You can't just walk away, the chairman shouted. You built this empire. He nodded slowly. Yes, and now I'm choosing to build something else. He tore off his company badge, tossed it onto the conference table, and walked out. The executives yelled behind him. Security tried to stop him. Claire followed him, panicked. Ethan, think this through. What about your future? He looked at her gently. My future isn't here. The elevator doors closed, and for the first time in Ethan Hale's life, he felt free. The drive back, and the fear, he drove straight back to Hickory Ridge. Rain hit the windshield in heavy sheets, matching the storm inside him. He replayed Maya's terrified eyes, the boys' confused faces, the reporters swarming the diner. He hated himself in that moment, not for punching the lawyer, not for quitting, but for being. The reason Maya and the boys were hurting at all. His voice cracked as he whispered into the empty car, "I'm so sorry." Lightning flashed across the sky. He kept driving. Back in town, a cold reception. When he returned to the diner, Maya wasn't there. A waitress approached him carefully. "She's not taking customers today. She's home with the boys." "They're shaken." Ethan felt a stab of pain. "Can you tell her I came?" The waitress hesitated. "She told us not to give her messages from you." The words burned. "Is she okay?" he asked, voice soft. "She's overwhelmed," the woman said. "Reporters knocked on her door all night. The boys couldn't sleep." He closed his eyes. His fault, all of it. Even if he didn't invite the chaos, he was the reason it existed, he whispered. "I never wanted this." The waitress sighed. "Then you need to fix it. Whatever that means." He nodded, leaving quietly. He didn't go to the motel this time. He stood across the street from Maya's building. Lights were on. Shadows moved inside, small figures pacing, clinging to their mother. He didn't knock, he didn't dare. He simply stood there until the lights dimmed, then sat on the curb, head in his hands, until the sun began to rise, the breaking point by morning. Ethan hadn't moved. He watched the apartment window helplessly, guilt eating him alive. When the door finally opened, Maya stepped out with the boys, backpacks on, hair messy from exhaustion. She saw him instantly, her body tensed. "Maya," he began softly. "Don't," she said, voice low but trembling. "Ethan, I can't do this. Not now. I didn't call the lawyers. I swear, I know!" She snapped. He blinked. Tears filled her eyes, not from anger, but from fear. "Ethan, the boys cried all night," she whispered. "They asked me what was happening, why people were angry, why you were angry, why there were cameras." She looked up, broken. "They've never seen chaos before. I worked my whole life to give them peace. And in 2 days, you tore it apart." He stepped forward, voice raw. "I'm trying, and trying isn't enough," she cried. "Not when I'm the one picking up the pieces. Not when they're holding on to me and asking if the world is ending." His chest caved in. "I didn't know. You don't know a lot of things," she whispered. "And that's why I can't do this with you right now." He felt the sentence crush him. "I'm not shutting you out forever," she added softly. "But you need to leave. Give us space. Let things calm down." His throat tightened. "Please," he whispered. "Don't cut me out of their life." She closed her eyes, breathing shakily. "I'm not cutting you out," she said. "I'm protecting them." The boys tugged her hand. They stared at Ethan, confused, sad, disappointed. Liam whispered, "Why is he crying?" Maya turned them away gently. "Come on, boys. We're late for school." Ethan watched them walk away, 3 small backpacks bouncing. Maya's hand gripping theirs tightly. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't breathe. In that moment, he realized something terrifying. He had $1 billion once. A corporation. A legacy, but none of it meant anything. If he couldn't fix this, and for the first time in his entire life, Ethan Hale understood what it felt like to truly break. The drive back to his motel felt like drifting through a world made of fog. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles pale, vision blurry with exhaustion and heartbreak. He wasn't thinking of Hale Enterprises. He wasn't thinking of stockholders, board members, or the media circus waiting for him in New York. He was thinking only of 3 small backpacks walking away from him, of Maya pulling the boys close, shielding them from chaos, of the crack in her voice when she said, "I'm protecting them." The sentence hung in his mind like a weight tied around his ribs. He didn't go inside the motel. He sat in his car in the parking lot, head resting against the seat, staring blankly through the windshield. He had no plan, no roadmap, no strategy, For the first time in Ethan Hale's life, he didn't need one. He just needed one choice, one truth, one step that he should have taken years ago. His phone buzzed again. 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 He finally picked it up. Not because he wanted to, but because the world refused to stop calling. Claire's voice trembled on the other end. "Ethan, everything is falling apart. You can't disappear. Investors are in panic. The board wants a press conference, damage control." He gently interrupted Claire. "Yes, sir. I quit." She went silent for a full 5 seconds. "What?" "I resigned. Permanently, effective immediately." "Ethan, you can't be serious." "I'm more serious than I've ever been." She inhaled shakily. "Your shares, I'll sign them over. To charity, to the employees, to whoever deserves them more than I do." "Are you listening to yourself? You're talking about giving away $1 billion. Yes. You're talking about walking away from the company you built. Yes. You're throwing your entire life away." "No," Ethan said quietly. "I'm finally choosing one." Claire didn't speak. He could imagine her blinking back shock, confusion, fear. Finally she whispered, "Is it because of the woman? The children?" "It's because of the man I want to become," Ethan said. "The man they deserve." He ended the call. Then he turned his phone off entirely. For the first time in over a decade, he let the world move on without him, let go to hold on. He checked out of the motel, handing the keys back to the clerk with a polite but distant nod. He didn't take the elevator. He walked down the stairs slowly, letting each step feel final. When he stepped outside, the morning air kissed his skin like a quiet, fragile blessing. He drove straight to the one place his life fell apart. To rebuild, back to Hickory Ridge. A quiet return. Maya's apartment sat in a small brick building on a sloped street. A weathered staircase led up to a blue door with peeling paint and 3 cartoon stickers, dinosaurs and stars. The boys' stickers. Ethan stood at the bottom of the steps, staring at the door, heart pounding so loudly he felt it in his throat. He didn't expect forgiveness. He didn't expect open arms. He didn't expect anything except the truth. He walked up the stairs slowly and knocked lightly. Once, inside, footsteps paused. Soft whispers. Then the lock clicked. Maya cracked the door half an inch. Her eyes were tired, red, guarded. "What are you doing here?" She whispered. "I came to apologize," he said immediately, voice raw. "Not excuses. Not explanations, just, I'm sorry." She looked at him for a long moment. He didn't rush her. He didn't push. He simply stood there, letting the cold morning air wrap around his thin shirt. Finally, she opened the door wider, not enough to enter, but enough to see the boys sitting on the couch, cartoons flickering on the screen. Caleb saw him first. His eyes widened, then softened. "Maya," Ethan continued softly, "I quit. I walked away from everything. The company, the money, the press, all of it." Shock rippled over her features. "You what?" "I left it behind," he said. "I chose this. Chose them. Chose you. Ethan, that's insane." "Maybe," he whispered, "but losing you all again would be worse." Her breath caught, visibly. "You didn't need to do that." "I did," he said, "because the man I was, he didn't deserve any of you. But the man I'm trying to be does." She looked down, wiping a tear she didn't want him to see. "You can't just throw away an empire." "I can rebuild money," he said. "I can rebuild a career. I can rebuild a future." He stepped closer. "But I can't rebuild a family if I lose them." Silence stretched between them, soft and painful. Finally, Maya whispered the question she was terrified to ask. "What do you want, Ethan?" He took a shaky breath. "I want to be their father." Her lips quivered. "And what about me?" He swallowed hard. "I want whatever part of your life you'll allow me to earn, no matter how long it takes." Maya turned away, pressing a hand to her mouth. Her shoulders shook. Not rejection, not anger, but grief. 6 years of it. The boys heard the commotion and rushed to the door. Caleb peered out, hopeful. "Is he coming in?" Noah whispered, "Mom!" Liam tugged her sweater. "Why are you crying?" Maya knelt down, gathering all 3 boys in her arms. Trembling, Ethan watched, not stepping in, not interrupting, but feeling his heart collapse from the weight of love and regret. Finally, Maya wiped her eyes. "Not today," she said firmly. "But maybe." "Soon," Ethan nodded. "Okay," he whispered. "I'll wait." She closed the door gently, but instead of leaving, Ethan sat on the staircase for hours, quiet, still, steady, not forcing the door, not banging, not begging, just being there, showing up exactly what she asked for. The next day, a shift. The next morning, Ethan chose something different. He found a small rental listing near the edge of town, an old house with chipped paint, a squeaky porch and a broken mailbox. He rented it instantly. No luxury, no penthouse, no city skyline, just a small home where he could build something real. By afternoon, he was carrying paint cans through the front door, rolling up his sleeves. Covered in dust, he didn't text Maya, he didn't call, he simply built a life. One step closer to theirs, a sudden visit around sunset as he was painting the living room wall. A knock echoed through the house. He froze, his heart flipped. He opened the door, and there they stood, all. 3 boys, with Maya behind them, her expression cautious, guarded, but softer than yesterday. Caleb held a small plastic container. "Mom said we made cookies. Do you want some?" Ethan nearly collapsed. He knelt down slowly, giving the boys a gentle smile. "I'd love some." Noah peered past him. "This your house?" "Yes." "It's not fancy," Liam noted. "It's perfect," Ethan replied. Maya swallowed, meeting his gaze for a moment too long. Your place looked empty," she said quietly. "I just moved in. We saw your car," she added, voice trembling slightly. "The boys wanted to say hi." "Hi?" All 3 chorused. Ethan smiled. A hi. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't fixed. It wasn't healed, but it was something, a bridge, a beginning, a single fragile chance. Maya cleared her throat. "We can't stay long. I just wanted you to know. We're not hiding." "Thank you," he whispered. She nodded, leading the boys away. Caleb waved. "Bye, bye," Noah echoed. Liam shouted, "You missed a spot on the wall." Ethan laughed, a sound born of relief, not joy. "Thanks," he said. Maya watched him for a second longer, eyes flicking over the paint on his hands, the dust on his shirt, the small, empty house he was trying to turn into a home. "You're really doing this," she whispered. "I am." She nodded to herself, and the faintest, tiniest smile touched her lips. Good. Then she left. Ethan stood in the doorway long after their footsteps faded. For the first time, he believed he might have a real place in their life, not through money, not through power, not through force, but through presence, through love, through change. And he knew one thing with absolute clarity: choosing them was the best decision he had ever made. The next week unfolded like the slow turning of a page, gentle, cautious, and filled with moments that felt too fragile to touch. Ethan woke early every morning in his small rental home, sunlight leaking through dusty blinds, the house still echoing with emptiness. But for the first time, that emptiness didn't scare him. It motivated him. He filled the silence with purpose. Fixing a creaky floorboard, painting the faded walls, installing shelves he barely knew how to assemble, cooking simple breakfasts he wasn't very good at. Everything he did carried one quiet, unspoken hope. Make this a place his sons might one day feel safe in. He'd never built a home before. Only empires. Only towers. Only things that reached upward, never inward. But this little house, chipped paint and all, was the first thing he'd ever built with his heart. The first step back into their lives. Maya brought the boys by again 2 days later. Not planned. Not scheduled. Just instinct. The boys ran up his walkway with an energy that electrified the air. "Caleb, show us your house again." "Noah, do you have food?" "Liam, did you fix the spot I said you missed?" Ethan laughed, a genuine laugh he hadn't felt in years. "I did. Want to inspect it?" Liam nodded seriously, the tiny quality control officer. The 3 boys sprinted inside. Maya remained standing on the walkway. She wore a soft grey sweater, the sleeves pushed up, her hair tied in a loose bun. She looked exhausted, not physically, emotionally. The weight of 6 years of surviving alone still clung to her like a shadow. Ethan stepped to the porch rail. "You didn't have to come," she nodded once. "I know. Thank you." Her jaw tightened a little. "This doesn't mean everything is fine." "I know," he said softly. "It doesn't mean I forgive you. I don't expect that." She swallowed, eyes drifting toward the doorway where the boys' voices echoed through the house. "It just means—" "I'm trying," she whispered. Ethan's breath caught. "So am I," he replied. This time, Maya didn't look away. "Work like a normal man." The boys explored the house, like adventurers discovering a new continent, while Ethan and Maya talked on the porch. "How long are you staying?" she asked. "Here? As long as I need to. Where are you working?" He exhaled. "I'm not. Not at the moment," she frowned. "Ethan, you can't just quit your life." "I didn't quit my life. I quit the version of it that didn't have room for you or the boys." Her eyes softened, briefly, then sharpened again. "Still, you need—" "Something," he nodded. "I've been asking around town. I might do some part-time work." She blinked, stunned. "You, working here? Like a normal job?" He smiled. "I am a normal man now. Ethan, you're not normal." "I'm trying to be." Her lips twitched. Not quite a smile, not quite disbelief. "What kind of work?" she asked. "Mechanic shop. The owner needs help with bookkeeping." Maya's eyes widened a little. "You doing books?" "I did run a billion-dollar company." "Yes, but this is different," he shrugged softly. "I want different." She studied him for a long moment. Something in him had changed. She could see it. Something quieter, something gentler, something she once loved but thought had died. The boys see a new version of him inside. The boys had discovered Ethan's toolbox. Caleb held a hammer almost bigger than his own arm. Liam had a flashlight and was shining it into a floor vent. Noah was tapping the wall like a detective. "Boys!" "Gentle," Maya warned. "It's okay," Ethan said. "They're curious." Caleb tugged his sleeve. "Can we help fix stuff?" "Sure," Ethan said. "But only small things." "Like what?" Noah asked. Ethan knelt. "Well, the kitchen cabinet door is loose." Liam's eyes lit up. "We can fix that." Maya watched quietly as Ethan guided them. Slow, patient, never raising his voice, even when Noah put the screwdriver in backward or when Caleb tried to use the hammer on the wall. "You're good with them," she murmured. Ethan didn't look at her. "I wish I had the chance sooner," she swallowed. "When the boys were little," Maya whispered softly, "I imagined moments like this. A dad teaching them things, fixing things, being present. I used to think, maybe one day—" Ethan's hand froze. He looked at her gently. "You don't have to imagine any more." A long silence passed between them. Not painful, not angry. Just full of things they couldn't say yet. Town starts noticing the changeover the next week. Ethan became a familiar face in Hickory Ridge. He worked at the mechanic shop 3 days a week, not because he needed the money, but because he needed the humility. He swept floors, checked invoices, answered calls. The owner, Carl, joked loudly, "Never thought a billionaire would hand out oil change receipts in my shop." Ethan would shrug. "I'm not a billionaire anymore," Carl would smirk. "Kid, you'll always look like one." And the townspeople began to notice the way Ethan smiled at strangers, the way he stopped to pick up trash near the park, the way he bought snacks for kids playing soccer, the way he sat at the diner quietly, respectfully helping where he could. They whispered about it. Some doubted, some believed, some waited, but everyone agreed on one thing. Ethan Hale wasn't the same man who left 6 years ago. Maya begins to soften. Maya watched from a distance, but every day the distance grew smaller. He didn't push. He didn't pressure. He didn't demand. He showed up, consistently, quietly, without fail. One evening, after she closed the diner, she found Ethan sitting outside waiting for her. She almost turned around, but something stopped her. "Why are you here?" she asked softly. "I wanted to walk you home." She laughed under her breath. "I'm not a teenager, Ethan." "I know," he replied. "But you're carrying the world on your shoulders. And I don't want you to walk alone." She went silent. Wind rustled leaves across the pavement. Finally, she nodded once. They walked side by side. No touching, no flirting. Just two people walking quietly under streetlights, letting the night bridge gaps their words couldn't. When they reached her door, she turned to him. "Ethan." "Yes?" "You're doing good." He froze. Slowly he smiled, small, fragile, full of gratitude. "Thank you," she swallowed. "But don't take that as a promise. I won't." She opened the door. Before stepping inside, she whispered, "But you can take it as hope." And then she disappeared into the apartment. Ethan stood outside for a long time, letting the word wrap around him like warmth. Hope. For the first time. It didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt like a future, a fragile but real beginning over. The next few days, their dynamic subtly shifted. Maya brought him lunch from the diner. He fixed her broken cabinet hinge. She brought the boys to his house more often. He helped them with homework. She sat on the porch while the boys played in his yard, both of them stealing glances they pretended not to notice. One afternoon, as he was teaching Caleb how to tighten a bolt, Maya approached with a hesitant look. "Ethan, can we talk?" His heart jumped. "Of course." She sat beside him on the porch step. "The boys, they really like you," she said. He nodded, trying to steady his breath. "I like them too." "I know," she whispered. "And that scares me." "Why?" "Because if you leave again, it'll break them." "I won't leave." She stared at him, long, deep, searching for the truth in his eyes. And for the first time, she believed him, not fully, not completely, but the door cracked open, the walls loosened, the fear quieted. She exhaled softly. "Okay," she said. "Then keep showing up." He smiled. "I will." The last moment of the chapter. Before leaving, Maya paused at the gate. She looked back at him. "Ethan?" "Yes, you're becoming the father they always deserved." And then she walked away, boys running around her, the sunset glowing behind them like a promise. Ethan stood on the porch, heart trembling, for the first time in 38 years. He felt proud of himself, not for money, not for power, not for success, but for becoming a man his sons could look up to, a man Maya could maybe, someday, trust again. The following weeks wove themselves into a quiet miracle. Not loud, not dramatic, not sudden, just slow, steady healing, like the careful stitching of a torn fabric. Ethan continued working at the mechanic shop. He continued helping at the diner. He continued building small rituals with the boys, afternoon science experiments, simple dinners, clumsy board games, fixing toy cars, walking them to school in the mornings. Every moment was fragile. Every moment was priceless. Every moment felt like stolen time he needed to earn. Maya, cautious but softening, allowed him more access inch by inch, not because she trusted him completely, but because she could finally see he was building a life not next to hers, but toward hers. The boys worshipped him. He tried not to let that break him, but each time one of them grabbed his hand or climbed onto his lap or fell asleep on his shoulder, he felt 6 years of absence burn through his chest. The day the world stopped, it was a Thursday afternoon. Warm sun, soft breeze, kids running out of school toward waiting parents. Ethan stood by the fence, hands in pockets, waiting as he always did. Caleb came out first. "Dad!" Ethan froze. The word hit him like a lightning bolt. Caleb's eyes widened. He slapped a hand over his own mouth. I didn't mean, Ethan knelt instantly, heart trembling. Caleb looked terrified, as if he'd broken a rule he'd been taught never to touch. "You can call me that," Ethan whispered, voice shaking. "If you want to." Caleb's eyes softened. He nodded shakily, small arms looping around Ethan's neck. Ethan closed his eyes. For a moment he couldn't even breathe. Then, a scream, a terrified scream. "Noah!" Maya's voice tore through the parking lot. "Noah!" Ethan spun. Noah collapsed near the sidewalk, clutching his chest, gasping for air, face turning pale. Panic ripped through the air. Parents backed away, stunned. Caleb screamed, "Noah! Noah!" Ethan ran faster than he'd ever moved in his life, Liam trembling beside his twin, crying, "He can't breathe! He can't breathe!" Ethan scooped Noah into his arms. The boy felt limp, too light, too hot. "Maya!" Ethan shouted. We need to get him to the hospital, now. Maya was shaking violently, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't, he never, oh God. Maya, look at me, Ethan said firmly. Get in the truck, now. She obeyed. Ethan carried Noah, heart pounding so hard he thought it would burst. Liam and Caleb clung to his shirt, too scared to let go. They sped off. The hospital bright fluorescent lights. Echoes of rushed footsteps. Stinging disinfectant smell, forms, questions, fear, doctors in blue scrubs. Ethan paced endlessly, hands shaking. The boys sat in plastic chairs, hugging each other tightly. Maya stood by the wall, rocking back and forth silently, eyes red, hands clenched. A doctor finally approached. What happened? Ethan demanded, voice breaking. We're running tests, the doctor said calmly. His heart rhythm was irregular, his breathing restricted. Could be a reaction, could be a sudden condition. We won't know yet. Is he going to be okay? Maya whispered. The doctor paused. We hope so. But we need the parents to stay close. Ethan stepped forward. I'm his. He froze. Maya stared at him. Pain twisted her expression. He's my son, she said, voice barely audible. The doctor nodded and walked back toward the room. Ethan felt the ground tilt beneath him. He stepped away, leaning against the wall, hands trembling uncontrollably. Maya approached slowly. Ethan. He didn't look up. Ethan, she whispered again, voice trembling. Say something. He swallowed a sob. I wasn't there when he was born. Ethan. I wasn't there for his first laugh, his first steps, his first day of school. His voice cracked. And now he might. And I still, tears finally spilled down his cheeks. Don't deserve to stand here, he whispered. Maya reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. Her touch was warm, alive, human, a lifeline in a storm. You're here now, she whispered, voice trembling. And they need you. He looked at her, really looked, her. Eyes were filled with heartbreak. Not just for Noah, but for Ethan too, for everything they lost, everything they never got to share, for the man he once was, and the man he was trying so desperately to become. Ethan squeezed her hand. Back, I'm sorry, he whispered. Not for the moment, but for everything. She broke. The sob escaped her chest before she could stop it. She slumped forward, leaning into him, and he wrapped his arms around her instinctively. For the first time in 6 years, they held each other, not as husband and wife, not as enemies, but as two broken people praying for the same miracle. The result, minutes felt like hours, hours felt like days. Finally, the doctor returned. He's stable, he said. Maya collapsed into Ethan's arms again, relief crashing through her like a wave. He had a sudden arrhythmia, the doctor explained. We've stabilized his heart rhythm. He needs monitoring, but he's okay for now. Can we see him? Maya asked through tears. Yes, but just parents at first. Ethan hesitated. I shouldn't. Maya grabbed his hand. Yes, you should. They walked into the room together. Noah lay on the bed, hooked to a monitor, small chest rising and falling gently. Liam and Caleb pressed their faces against the glass, watching anxiously. Maya sat beside Noah, stroking his hair. Ethan stood on the other side, gripping the rail, fighting tears. Noah blinked awake. Mom! Dad! The word hit both of them like a lightning strike. Ethan leaned forward, voice trembling. I'm right here, buddy. Noah gave a faint smile. You were scared. Ethan laughed softly through tears. I was terrified. Noah nodded sleepily. Me too. And Ethan Hale's heart shattered and rebuilt at the same time. The healing. They stayed at the hospital until sunrise. Maya dozed off in the chair. Ethan wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. The boys curled up together, sleeping, leaning against one another like puppies. A nurse approached Ethan quietly. They adore you, she whispered. He swallowed hard. I don't deserve them. The nurse smiled kindly. Deserve is irrelevant. Presence is everything. He looked at the 3 boys, at Maya, at the life he almost lost twice. He made a decision, not impulsive, not grand, not desperate, just real. The final scene, a new beginning. 2 days later, Noah was released. Ethan carried him out of the hospital, the boys cheering around him, Maya smiling softly beside them. But something had changed, something fundamental, something silent but undeniable. The next morning, they all sat in the diner, the five of them, around the booth where the story first began. Maya poured coffee for Ethan without asking. He cut pancakes for Caleb without being told. Noah leaned against him like it was natural. Liam stole his toast like it was tradition. The chaos felt perfect. A family, their family. Ethan finally cleared his throat. "I need to tell all of you something." Maya raised an eyebrow. The boys froze mid-bite. Ethan took a deep breath. "I love you," Maya blinked. The boys stared. "I love all of you," he repeated. "And if you'll have me, I want to be here. Every day. Not part-time. Not sometimes. I want to be your father, fully," Noah grinned. "We already think you are," Caleb nodded. "Yeah," Liam added. "We voted." Maya laughed through tears. Ethan looked at her. "And you?" he asked quietly. "What do you think?" She held his gaze, her voice soft, certain, but trembling with hope. "I think," she whispered, "that I never stopped loving you. I only stopped trusting you." Ethan swallowed hard. "Maya, but now," she continued, reaching across the table to take his hand, "I'm starting to trust you again." He closed his eyes. A tear slipped down. When he opened them, his family, the one he almost lost forever, smiled back at him. And in that moment, with the clatter of dishes and the warmth of morning light spilling through the diner windows, Ethan Hale finally felt whole, not because he built an empire, but because he rebuilt a family.